everyone! How are you doing today? Today I want to talk about how womanhood is taught and how manhood is earned. So if you have seen my previous vlog about how come women haven't run the world, this is one of the chapter. And I feel the need to say it again because I don't think changes will come very quickly. So that's why conversation is needed to kind of pinpoint different things, I think. And so let's begin. So one of my female idol, the founders of Girl Who Code, Reshma, who just published a book, Brave Not Perfect, and who has been one of the pioneers of female in tech, and then who also have run for politician, congressman seat, who didn't get it, but applause for trying, right? Like, society never really give you any kind of applause for trying. But I think no, we need to be trying harder for the things that really need to be addressed, needs knowledge, or needs to be enhanced. Conversation needs to be addressed, you know. And so I have been thinking about that a lot because I grew up as a tomboy. I have a lot of male cousins. I have 3 brothers. So naturally, when I'm around a bunch of boys, the only way to be accepted, to be in the boys, is to also act like them. And so I was definitely, in the earlier days of my life, I definitely have been trying to hold my feelings back in the earlier day. But obviously that's not how I always functions, you know. It takes a period of time for me to finally learn the values of vulnerability. But then I want to talk about the more cultural influence and also media impact on how this kind of gender dynamic is created. What I really noticed is that I think as a young girl, we tend to be praised based on our beauty and based on our domestic ability. Like in Chinese, they would praise girls for being 乖巧 文静. It literally means that being quiet and good and obedient. So these are the praise that would be given to young girls. And you know, when you're young, you're very free, you're explorative. But when you're praised for something that you do or behave, then gradually is naturally that you will want to behave that way a little bit more, because that is the more praise activity, the way of acting. And so girls will be praised for being good, obedient, and quiet. While boys, they will be praised for being brave, daring to try out things that are out of their capability. If they're short but they want to get into the basketball team, then they will try it. But girls would tend not to do that. Girls will have to, if girls going to compete about something, they're going to try to fit into every criteria and make sure that they have what it takes, that they are perfect for whatever it takes to win the competition. And then there's a huge separation. So are girls always being praised for being in a certain ways, and then boys are praised for trying? And that kind of leads to a big gap between professional orientation later on in life. Because if you do think about it, the beginning of women stepping into the workforce was actually during World War I and World War II, when men go to war and they die. And that's when women left being widow, having to take care of their kids, being infant, and they have to work. So women's first kind of category of job are mostly domestic chores. Okay, I don't have a diploma or I don't have educations. All I know is how to make a household work. So they would kind of take up jobs about domestic chores, which is being somebody else's servant, somebody else's personal assistants, or any kind of thing. So that would be the kind of first categories of women would lead to jobs in that kind of domestic chore. But when World War I, World War II, when women start to stepping into the workforce to kind of replenish the lost working force, because men died during wars. So many men died, lived hundreds and thousands of widows and orphans. And all these women would have to raise their baby on their own. So that's when, like, okay, there's a shortage in workforce. And they literally, in England, they live ban to allow women to stepping into the workforce, because before them, there was actually some ban that prohibited women from working. Like a professional bias has been there for a really long time, okay? And so when women started stepping into the force, they were building bombs and, like, you know, bullets for the militaries and stuff. And then so that is the little transitions of, like, the differentiate of, like, working force. And then after that, women have money, women start wearing pants. They don't want to go back to just being wives anymore. And then that's when, like, women's professions start to expand and expand and expand. But if you do think about it, how do women in the history ever gain power? Marriage. Before marriage, before is beauty, right? Even in today, majority of women would kind of still go into the beauty business. There's a lot more women that love fashion, right? Including Kylie Jenner, who became billionaire out of his lipstick empire, right? Women will kind of go into the business still about beauty. And that coincides to what I talked about before. When young girls are being praised as beautiful, that's what they would strive to be. Not necessarily is their natural tendency. It's just that because they are praised enough, therefore they will kind of go into that fields, because it is what is more valuable part about being a female. Not to tackle down the values of beauty. I mean, beauty is admired, beauty is pleasant to look at. It makes life much more beautiful to live if you always look to the beauty. But then there's another side to it. We keep talking about future is female. Obviously, with the rise of feminism, there's Women's March, there's Me Too, there's all this. But the fundamental sex dynamic has not changed that much. If it has changed that much, then on Instagram, girls who wear bikini all in every fucking photo, they will not have millions of followers, right? Like, do you like them for their brain? Come on. Anyway, then I want to talk about the sexual orientation that's been displayed by the media, because there's definitely such a thing as what is female-oriented magazine versus male-oriented magazine. And female-oriented magazine like Vogue, Marie Claire, and Harper's Bazaar, they're all about fashion, they're all about beauty preservation, how to look 19 when you're 50. Or about the sex tips, right? It's still, like, kind of about, like, being beautiful, being sexy for your partner. Attraction is power. But if female constantly spending that much brain space on their beauty and all that, it does take away their focus on other things, right? And male-oriented magazine like Esquire, I wouldn't say Wire is male-orientated, but Wire has about 80% reader that are male. So it's safe to say that they're male-oriented magazine. And so Wire is very focused on new technology, new medicines, and forward thinking. All the male-oriented magazines tend to focus on new technology, forward thinking ideas, new ideas. While female-oriented magazines tend to focus on fashion and beauty and sex tips, which is very catering to a patriarchal society. So if we're gonna talk about future is female, two industry will dominate the future right now: politics and technology. And they're kind of very closely interlinked right now because Facebook possibly have helped Trump elected, right? And in all the world's parliament, political scene, 20% of the politicians in the world are female. And that is also about the same number as in technology. 20% of female work in technology. And I want to talk a little bit about robots. That's the part that I didn't really talk about it in How Come Women Haven't Run the World Yet, because I do want to talk about the gender difference. But then I also want to talk about its impact. So right now, increasingly, there are more female robots being built. And this is a profit choice. This is not an ethical one. So if you think about Ex Machina, the female robot is so smart, it acts like a human. It reads you before you read her. And when I meet the Sophia creator during Parsons' blockchain event, I had this fundamental question. Can you possibly prevent robot from lying to us? Unfortunately, he did not give me a direct answer. He was kind of like, it became kind of a ivory tower kind of talk, where like he want to say that like, let's not talk about thinking. Let's say thinking is actually thought processing. So he's thinking about humanity as in already robotic. So his answer was really not that satisfying. His answer was literally like, oh, if we design robot, the algorithm we put into robots will make them behave like us. Therefore, robots are like a mini-me. Robots are not mini-me. Like, no human can digest all encyclopedia and all histories of humanity within like a week's time. It's out of our brain capacity to like consume that much. And no pets would be outsmart us in such a short period of time. Or else your dogs wouldn't greet you passionately whenever you come home, right? Imagine your dog being smarter than you. You'll be a cat. So his answer was simply that the robots that I design will become mini-me. So that means that like the robot they design will also carry their defects into their robot. So imagine a robot just like have just like extensions of mankind, but with higher brain capacity and probably made of steels. So actually you cannot fight them. The only way to fight them in the future is probably becoming a cyborg. But if you becoming a cyborg, which you connected all the wires and like expand your brain space, memory capacity, but that will also mean that you can totally be hacked, right? Okay. Technology, there are 20% of female work in technology right now. And in the robot AI design, it's less than 10%. So I want you to think about algorithm in terms of female brain and male brain. Another thing that I want to talk about is that how if we can actually design empathy into robot. If robot has no empathy towards human, one day we ask robot to solve world problem. They would say human is the fundamental problem of why the earth is dying. And then their solution will be killed human. Not to go that far, but it's totally possible. I mean, everybody's kind of very scared of robot taking our jobs right now, right? But another side is that like, are you going to stop progressing? What about reverse thinking? Like, robot can digest all the knowledge, all the information faster than you do. They can remember things much, much more clearly, better. But what makes a human? Human. Vulnerability. What if you actually value your humanity? The side of you that makes you vulnerable, it's actually your edge. We already know that like robots, automation, AI will take over jobs that are even with like white collar job, which is that like if you think about it, the industrial revolution kind of kills the labor focused profession, and then comes technology automation, all the factory workers are being laid off. They close all the factories in General Motor, like they close all the factories of like in Detroit and all that, and then leave hundreds and hundreds of like community being broke out of not having their jobs anymore. The next wave of change will be AI. And the AI can replace so much more jobs. That's like, we're heading towards a universal unemployment. So for you to really think about what is your advantage in the world in the next decade is to really think about what is your creativity, what is your innovation, what is the thing that makes you so human that no robots can actually replace you. Because don't forget, robots and technology, they still come from humanity. The humanity's ability to strive, to progress. That would never change. Humans still drive technology. And so what you have to really think about is not about how smart or intelligent you have to become, but what is it that makes you irreplaceable with a smarter robot, with a stronger robot that can do so much more than you. That doesn't even require sleep. And I do hope that this female-oriented tendency, which is like female has higher levels of empathies and higher levels of like community connections, I wonder if we can install that into the robots so that we don't really forget the most important thing, which is connection and empathy. If we can install that into robots, then maybe we won't be so scared of our jobs being taken away, or if robots can rise against us. Yeah. Future is female. I hope it's female. And I hope you teach your daughters about self-worth. Probably don't let her get on Instagram yet. Probably let her get on Instagram after like when she's like, I don't know, later on 13 years old. And praise your daughter that she's smart and she's capable. Praise your daughter anything other than just beautiful. Because I think female, we can take up the jobs that use more brain as well. Don't be scared of robots. Robots still come from human, okay? Don't be scared of robots. Think about what makes you unique. I love you. Ciao. If you like my video, please give me a thumbs up, share with your friends, leave a comment. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please subscribe for me, and I will see you next time.